Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Ken Patterson Show, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence, and thank you for your energy. We appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to talk about this assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Um, talk about how we feel about that. How I always say we, but I mean how I feel about that. I'm gonna also get into the Dan Bongino interview with Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity, where he's saying now he's in fear for his life. He's afraid that the goons are gonna come for him if power changes. If we go from Republicans to Democrats, then they're gonna come for him just like they did Donald Trump. So we'll get into that. Let you listen to what Dan has to say about why he's kind of fearing for his life now, and um, uh, we'll get into that. And we're also going to get into the Tucker Carlson interview with his brother Buckley Carlson, and and how they are now kind of regretting voting for Donald Trump. And I can definitely relate to that because I voted for Donald Trump and I did not vote for this shit that we're getting right now. So I can definitely empathize with that and definitely understand um, why they regret voting for Donald Trump, right? So anyway, we're going to get into those stories tonight, guys. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence, and thank you for your energy, man. If you would, please hit that like, follow, share button, and we'll be right back after this. Peace.
Yeah, that's the hammer. So before he just went by it. Looked like he checked it twice. Hey.
Lieutenant Hudson, you monitoring this there?
Here it comes up.
Obviously.
Go for that.
Shall I post it as soon as he passed down map?
18, go for
Yeah, so there is the surveillance footage that came out, and does that shit look strange to you, or am I crazy? Right? You got this plethora of security agents there, Secret Service, probably FBI, probably CIA, probably some of everybody, right? And this dude is running down the hallway. He's running down the hallway, and nobody gets up before he is past him. Then the one cop damn near falls trying to, unholster his weapon. Man, this looked like a scene out of Benny Hill or something. Like, these are Keystone Cops. This is comedy, and they want us to believe that this was real. They want us to believe this was real. They exchanged gunfire with this guy. Somehow he managed not to get hit, but a cop got hit. But we're supposed to believe that this was real. They want us to believe that this was real. I'm not buying that shit, man. And plus, we've seen this too many times, man. Too many times we've seen this playbook. We've seen this playbook over and over. They came up with a manifesto. He's somehow transgender friendly and all the shit. He's got all the key bullet points, right? He's got all the stuff that they need us to be afraid of, right? They always want to give us a boogeyman, but man, we have to stop buying this kind of shit. Like, and the media is definitely going to sell this to us like, hey, yeah, this happened. That's real. This is what really happened. This guy stormed past all of these cops and security agents and nearly made it to the president, and he was shooting and they were shooting and only one cop got hit, but the police didn't manage to hit this guy. Like, we're supposed to believe that. And when you take a look at what was going on inside of the ballroom as this was happening, and I understand, like, trying to stay calm and keep the chaos to a minimum. So, you don't want people panicking and starting to trample each other and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But this shit here was way too cool, y'all. Let's check this out. Yeah, so there they are in the ballroom, and it's almost parody-like, right? It's almost like remember those Leslie Nielsen comedies where he would do parody detective work? This is what that sounded like, right? Oh, move, 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 blue, blue, blue. What was all of that shit? I don't know, but it just didn't look authentic. It looked very, very staged. It looked very, very rehearsed. And to me, it's just another cooked up distraction, right? They're trying to distract you from something. And we all know that this is all the war, now this shooting, the assassination attempts. This is all to keep our minds off of the Epstein files, right? This is all to keep us from talking about that. And we don't have to worry about the mainstream media talking about that. They never talked about it. They talked about it to the extent that they thought that Donald Trump was the bad guy in all of this. So they did talk about it in that way, but they never covered the full spectrum of what was going on in those files and what really happened to those kids, all the kids that went through this network of pedophiles. Or PDFs, whatever the fuck, man. But anyway, this is a distraction, guys. We've seen this playbook before. Like I said, you know, they already have the manifesto. And how come every assassin has a manifesto? How come every assassin is writing this stuff out and planning it, and then that's like the first thing the FBI finds is their plans and how they felt about the political apparatus and gays and transgenders and all of that kind of shit. Like, this is the same playbook that we've been getting in all of the mass shootings now. So to me, it feels like this shit is all cooked up. All of it is staged, man, even though they don't care that there's collateral damage in their stagings. They don't care about that. You saw 9/11. You saw what happened on 9/11. Those people who died in those buildings were collateral damage as far as the government is concerned. As far as the people who actually perpetrated that act on 9/11 are concerned. The people in those buildings were just collateral damage. And if somebody had been killed there with this guy running through, shooting or whatever, then that would have been collateral damage as well. But I feel like something else is coming behind this, right? Like, the Second Amendment is probably going to be called into question again. And now we have Republicans who are going to be saying, yeah, that was too close for damn comfort, man. We need some kind of Second Amendment amendment. We need some kind of, we need to rein that thing in, right? We need, you know, and it's too late for that, right? It's too late. So, because there are over 1 billion guns in America, in the streets of America, over 1 billion in the households of America, 1 billion guns. So if they plan on doing anything to the Second Amendment or anything toward our Second Amendment, then they definitely are going to have to start going door to door, knocking, and, you know, hopefully asking you for your weapon. And if you don't want to give it up, then shit, there may be some other consequences there. So, guys, we have to be vigilant here. We have to be smart. We cannot keep falling for the same things that we've been falling for in the past. This is not 1963. You know, when they blew the president's head off in broad daylight on national television. This is not that. This is the age of information. We get information much, much quicker than we ever have in the time that we've been alive, in the time that I've been alive on this planet. we're getting information much quicker than we ever have. So we have to be vigilant with that information. We cannot just take this media's word for anything anymore. All they do is lie to us. That's all this media does, is lie to us. So there's no reason for us to be listening to this media anymore. And you know, largely people don't. You know, a lot of people don't listen to this media anymore. People don't listen to this stuff anymore because everybody understands and realizes that it's all lies, right? We're waking up to the lies. We're waking up to this government who has always been the bad guy. They've always been the bad guy. Every war that they ever fought has always been for some nefarious purpose, to bring wealth, more wealth, to the already wealthy, to take from the poor and give to the wealthy. They send our poor children overseas to fight these wars for them. They send our poor children overseas to fight these wars. Children who live in poverty, their families, this is their hope, this is their means of income. And they're putting their lives on the line for this country that does not really give a damn about them, guys. And that's a horrible thing to say, but it's the truth. It's the truth. So, and that's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're trying to do here, is tell the truth. That's it. And so, you know, looking at this shooting and just the footage that's available, I don't trust Kash Patel worth shit. You know what I mean? Somebody who can't look directly in the camera, with both eyes straight in, I don't trust his ass. And that's not the only reason I don't trust Kash Patel. Kash Patel is a bag of hot air. He's a body of hot air, and he talked so big and he talked so tough before Donald Trump came back in office. I really believed this dude. I thought Kash Patel was for real, right? But Kash Patel is just the perfect puppet, right? He is the perfect little puppet. And they use him in that way, and he sounds crazy coming out here with his press conferences. It's always so outlandish to me. So, yeah, I don't believe this shit was real for 1 second, okay? I don't believe this shooting was real. I don't believe that one guy ran down a hallway. Nobody noticed him until it was almost too late. You know what I'm saying? It was almost too late before anybody ever even noticed him. Nobody saw him before he got past them. And then, like I said, a cop fell over trying to unholster his weapon. It was just too stupid, guys. It was too stupid to even entertain that being real in any kind of way. I don't understand, you know, it just, and now you have these people coming, you know, reporters saying that they or you know, recovering from post-traumatic stress and all of this shit, when a young lady was just on YouTube today, or TikTok, one of them, but she had footage of these guys just standing around, you know, snapping selfies and taking alcohol, you know, helping themselves to the alcohol in there, and just, you know, having a fucking good time, you know, right after this so-called threat of assassination just passed, right? Like, we got to stop with that stuff, man. We have to stop with that kind of mess. We cannot fall for that type of okie doke, right? That is just something that we cannot do. It's too late in the game for us to be doing that, guys. It's too late in the game for us to keep falling for the same old playbook. We know the plays now. We know the plays now. We ought to be able to stop the plays. We know them now, right? So we ought to be able to stop the plays, but they keep running the same plays on us, right? And we keep falling for them. Like, we don't adjust. We don't make adjustments. We just keep letting them do the same thing over and over and over and over. And they're not going to stop because it works, right? It works for them. And now they're scrambling because there's a glitch in their game now. There's a glitch. People are catching on. People are waking up. Not woke. People are waking up. You understand? People's consciousness is coming back online. So the DNA now is waking up. So people are starting to wake up to this mess. And the demons and the devils know that they don't have much longer here. They know that their time is up. So they're scrambling, man. They're scrambling. And you can tell that they're scrambling because they're now making mistakes. They keep making mistakes. They're telling lie after lie, getting caught in lie after lie, and they just keep lying because at this point, that's all that they can do. That's all they can do is lie to us now. So, man, I don't believe it. That's just the bottom line for me. I don't believe it. Put it in the comments. Let me know how you feel about it. Let me know if you think this was real, if you think this was fake. Let me know. Let me know. I want to know because I want to have some discussion about it. I want to talk to somebody about it, right? If you think this shit was real, then let's talk about it. You bring your perspective and maybe you can convince me because from what I see with my own eyes, I don't believe it. And this media is just a lie. That's all they do. So I don't even the news now makes me sick, right? And again, I said this last week, I said it the week before. Anybody telling you that a Republican is better than a Democrat or a Democrat is better than a Republican is an op. They don't care about you. They're trying to keep you divided. They're trying to keep you divided. So stop listening to anybody that's saying the Democrats are this and the Republicans are that or the liberals are this and the conservatives are that. In politics, they're all bad people. In politics, they're all bad liberals. In politics, they're all bad conservatives, guys. We cannot keep playing this two-party game like it's working. It does not work, and it just keeps the whole country divided. It keeps the country divided down the middle. So we can't prosper like that, guys. We can't function as a nation like that. We can't get ahead as a nation like that. So I feel like, we need to consider something else because this isn't working. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And all it has really served is, the division in the country. That's all it has served. And the politicians, it's making them rich. Our division makes them rich. It gives them something to talk about. It gives them something to say. These talking heads, talking about Republicans and talking about Democrats, without your energy buying into that, they don't survive. Without our energy buying into this government, it doesn't survive. So it's up to us again, always. It's going to be up to the people to decide that we don't want to do this anymore. And when we decide that we don't want to do it anymore, the shit will stop, guys, okay? So let me know how y'all feel about that story, man, how y'all feel about the shooting, if you thought it was fake, if you think it's real. Let me know. And we're going to move on to the next story right after this, guys. I appreciate you being here. Hang on. Peace. All right. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Thank you. That was Pop-Up Podcast Mobile Studio Services. Any content creators out there, anybody with a podcast who would like to take that podcast to the next level as far as your aesthetic is concerned, Pop-Up Podcast Mobile Studio Services can help you do that with the perfect lights, the perfect sound, and the perfect cameras. Pop-Up Podcast can take your podcast to the next level. So, guys, if you're interested in that service or learning more about that service, please email me at thekenpattersonshow@gmail.com. That's thekenpattersonshow@gmail.com. All right, so let's move on to the next story, guys. And we're going to talk about this Dan Bongino story where he's saying that he feels like his life is in danger once power changes or if power changes and that kind of stuff. And we're going to get into his clip a little bit, but first we're going to look at the story a little bit. Here's the headline that says, ex-FBI Deputy Dan Bongino is scared for his life. If Democrats regain power, they're going to come for me. Well, that's really funny to me. And it's not funny. I don't mean to say that it's funny because Dan was in a very high position of power there at the FBI. He was the assistant director, so that's big. And and I'm going to set up the interview a little bit because he's on Sean Hannity and he's talking about why he fears for his life and how he got a hold to these. He saw something that, you know, he shouldn't have seen, or it was so top secret it couldn't even leave the office, and all this kind of stuff, right? But and we'll get into it a little bit. Let's watch the interview. Let's watch the clip here, and the clip is about 2 minutes long. So hang with me and just check it out. And then when I come back, I'm gonna render my opinion on that clip. All right, guys, stay with us.
But listen, I will never be the same, and I'm being as serious as a stroke right now. Look, I'm scared, man. Like I know what I did, and I'm proud of my work, and I'm proud of what me and Cash accomplished in the past year. Beyond proud. I know what we did. I know what's coming. I know what I started. I know what I laid out, and I know it's all, you saw a lot of these cases coming out over the past few days even. But don't think for a second that I don't think every day, and this is what's really sad, and this is why I know, and I never thought this after reading that enough Friday night, that they're going to come for me. And listen, man, it's not a sob story. I knew what I was getting into. But it happened to the president, and he went through just the worst, just destruction of his civil liberties I've ever seen. But I say to my wife all the time, I know, Sean, I can look you in the face as a friend, tell you and your millions of viewers and listeners, I promise you everything I did with a dotted I and a crossed T. I brought in my own attorney from the outside, person I trusted, a wonderful, wonderful person. I said, no, everything is going to be by the book. Everything. I'm confident in that. And you know what? It don't matter. They'll rewrite the book, just like they did for President Trump. And I said to my wife, I said, you know, I got a 14-year-old. The presidency could change. I hope it doesn't in a little over 2 years. You don't think on election night, if we lose, like it's not going through my head, like they're going to send some thugs to my house? I was never the same after that, because after reading what I read about how many people did this to President Trump, this Russia hoax, collusion, crossfire hurricane bullshit, and not a single person stopped them, I'm terrified that they're just not going to do the right thing when they're in charge.
So Dan is saying that he is terrified that once they're back in power, they're not going to do the right thing. And let me just say that I used to be a huge fan of Dan Bongino's. I used to have a whole lot of respect for Dan. No matter what you might think about Dan, or even what I think about Dan, he's a smart guy. He's very smart. He's a brilliant guy, actually, which makes it even more, I guess, gut-wrenching or even more disappointing to me that Dan Bongino didn't do or say anything about the Epstein files. And maybe that's why he left the FBI. Maybe he left the FBI because he didn't want to deal with that. He'd be able to say, listen, I was gone when all that stuff came out. I wash my hands of it. But as the assistant director of the FBI, and those files have existed. These aren't new files. These didn't just come out when Dan became the director. Remember, they lied to us, right? Remember, they told us it was a hoax. And remember, Dan said, hey, I've seen the file on Epstein, and yeah, he committed suicide. Yeah, he committed suicide. I'm certain of it. I've seen the files and blah, blah, blah. But this same guy, you know, not one word on the Epstein files. And now he wants to martyr himself and tell us that he's scared for his life. And I don't want anybody to be scared for their life, right? And Dan is a trained peace officer. He's trained Secret Service and now FBI. So guys, I don't think this guy is scared of anybody coming for him. They'll have to send a small army, which they may do. You know, they'll send, you know, a squad for your ass if they want you gone. That's not far-fetched. What he's saying is not far-fetched. You know, if he was truly an enemy of the state. But I'm saying that he's not an enemy of the state because Dan is martyring himself now because he's a part of the apparatus, guys. He's a part of this establishment. And the reason I believe Dan is back in podcasting is because he can propagandize all of their business, all of their shit, everything that he needs to get over, everything the administration is trying to pass off on the people. Dan Bongino has 3.5 million, 3.6 million followers on Rumble. That's a lot of people. And now I've heard a lot of those are bots, but shit, that's neither here nor there. That's a lot of influence. So if he's saying one thing to these people who, and I've seen the show, I used to be in the Bongino army. I used to be a part of the army, and I just recently got out when the Epstein stuff dropped, when he refused to talk about that, but he was talking about Candace Owens, talking about Erica Kirk. So, and all this was happening at the same time. So I was trying to figure out why one of the biggest podcasts in the country, who claims to be this big truth teller, was not talking about the Epstein files and what was going on in those files, and why he wasn't giving us his in-depth investigative prowess with the Epstein files, the way he does with everything else, but not the Epstein files. Not that. Don't touch that, Dan. Stay away from that, Dan. Because we will now. Then we'll send the goons for you, Dan. You know, and he's saying he fears for his life, but Dan doesn't. I don't believe that either, right? And I can't sit here and say that Dan Bongino doesn't fear for his life. If that's how he really feels, that's how he feels. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't think he's scared at all, right? I don't. And this comes on the heels of the so-called White House Correspondents' shooting dinner, whatever, the dinner shooting, whatever. You know, this comes on the heels of that event. And now he's all of a sudden, he's scared for his life. But man, this guy makes bukus of money getting you stirred up and mad at one party all day. That's what he does on his podcast. And I used to be right there with him, whoop, 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 because I knew that Democratic liberals were crazy. I know that still. So don't get it twisted when I'm sitting here talking about Republicans and what's happening right now with this administration, because I am not a Democrat. I know, sirree, Bob. No. But I am also not a conservative. I am me. I don't have a label for me. I'm me. That's it. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an individual. I'm an individual, free thinker, free being. You understand? Free. And we all are, right? We all should be. All we have to do is free up our thinking. We're prisoners in our own minds, guys, because we keep giving all this crap energy. We keep giving this all of our energy. And yes, I'm on a podcast saying, yes, we got to cut off sometimes. We got to unplug sometimes, guys. And get some downloads from the universe, man. Let the universe speak to you. Let universal truths come through you. Not what the media is trying to frame for you. Not what Dan Bongino wants you to think. Not what Ken Patterson wants you to think. Not what Candace Owens wants you to think. Not what Tucker Carlson wants you to think. You need to think for yourself. And if you do agree with those people, that's fine. That's okay. No problem. But do it because you want to do it. Don't do it because your neighbor is doing it. Don't do it because your boss is doing it. Do it because you want to do it. Believe it because you believe it. Trust it because believing, in order to have to believe a thing, a lie has to be, first of all. So the truth doesn't need your belief. The truth is the truth. And so when you hear the truth, that should resonate with you. The truth should resonate with you. When you hear it, it should resonate with you. So let's stop listening to all of the outside noise, because that is what's got us all mixed up and wound about, right? That's what's got us all messed up. But anyway, back to Dan Bongino saying that he's afraid and that, he thinks that they're going to send the goons for him. And what was really strange to me in that interview, he said, power could change. I hope it doesn't in the next, and I guess maybe he meant, from Republican to Democrat, right? And I'm sure he didn't mean Trump having another administration, right? I hope not anyway. But anyway, so let's check a look. Let's delve into the story a little bit, because it says a little bit more than the interview did. So let's check that out a little bit. So this is the interview, the transcript or the story that was in, I think this came out of this didn't come out of the Atlantic. I'm not, you know what? I don't really remember where I got this story from, but it is a reputable publication, guys. So in an interview on the Hangout with Sean Hannity podcast released on Tuesday, April 28th, Dan Bongino stated he will never be the same after his 10-month tenure serving as the FBI Deputy Director. Bongino served as the 20th Deputy Director of the FBI from March 17th, 2025 to January 3rd, 2026 under President Donald Trump and embattled FBI Director Kash Patel. The radio host expressed being genuinely scared for his life and the possibility of facing legal retaliation, including potential imprisonment on bogus charges due to his and Patel's work at the Bureau. Now that is funny. That you're blowing your own horn, guy. You're blowing your own horn. You're talking about you and Kash Patel's work at the FBI, which has been nothing really. Nothing. Until you guys bring people to justice in those Epstein files, nothing you do, nothing matters. Nothing you do matters, Dan. Nothing Kash says or does matters. Nothing that Donald Trump says or does matters. Until you guys bring those creeps to justice, you're nothing. You're nothing. FBI or not, you are absolutely nothing, because you are cowards in my book. You're cowards in my opinion. In my opinion, you are cowards because you won't touch these people for whatever reason. And I know they hold the purse strings for you cowards. I know it. Your sponsors and your bosses and all of these people, they hold the strings to your livelihoods. So that's why you won't say anything. And that's cowardly. That's cowardly. That is cowardice at its best. Man, this FBI saying that they, people are going to come after him because of the work that he and Kash Patel have done at the FBI. Guys, listen, this is Dan quoted here. I will never be the same, and I'm being as serious as a stroke right now. You heard him say this in the clip. He said, I'm scared, man. I know what I did, and I'm proud of my work, and I'm proud of what me and Kash accomplished in the past year, beyond proud. The former Fox News host claimed to have found a sensitive document regarding the Crossfire Hurricane investigation in burn bags that contained the keys to the kingdom. In his words, the keys to the kingdom, and was too sensitive to be removed from the office. So now he's finding this great top secret stuff. We can't remove this from the office. Me and Kash did great work here. I'm so proud of the work. So, again, blowing his own whistle, blowing his own horn. Here he is again. Bongino told Sean Hannity that he worries thugs may be sent to his home or that he will spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder because they will comfort him. I know what we did. I know what's coming. I know what I started, but don't think for a second that I don't think every day that they're going to comfort me, he said. He described a bureau split between good agents and snakes, admitting he even planted false information to identify leakers within the agency. Ooh, Dan. Ooh, he planted secret information. Wow, to catch snakes at the agency. Man, you didn't plant the right leaky information because the snakes in the Epstein files are still squirming around and crawling through the grass and still doing the same thing that they were doing before all of this shit came out. It hasn't stopped, guys. Children have not stopped going missing. Dan, children have not stopped going missing. So I don't know what good you guys have done. I don't know what you've done. I mean, I know you had some drug bust and that kind of shit, but bruh, the war on drugs, man, that shit's over. Y'all can give that shit up. Y'all lost that war a long time ago. You never stopped any drugs from coming into this country. Never. In fact, you brought them in. You brought drugs into the country. You flooded the country with drugs. And you thought when you were doing it, it was just for the black community. You thought it was going to keep the black community down, but the epidemic spread, right? It got outside of the black community, and everybody started getting high on crack, opioids, whatever, meth, whatever. It's all available to you here in the good old US of A, bro. You can get anything you need here. So this FBI really ain't shit. You understand? They haven't done a thing. They haven't done a thing because the world's worst criminals are still at it in Washington, D.C. These are the world's worst criminals, the most notorious criminals on the planet in Washington, D.C. But the FBI says that they're doing a good job, man. Let's look at some more of this story. All right. So Bongino officially left his position on January 3rd, 2026, stating that what he learned during his tenure shocked him down to his core, which ain't deep. Bongino was a former U.S. Secret Service agent from 1999 to 2011, including presidential protection details for George W. Bush and Barack Obama, and an NYPD officer from 1995 to 1999. He holds a master's degree in psychology and an MBA. Following his law enforcement career, he became a prominent far-right conservative podcaster, author, and commentator. So yeah, man, I watched Dan's podcast, man, and I can't lie. The podcasts were so informative, man. Like, this dude knows his stuff because, like I said, he's been on the inside. He's been in federal government for decades, guys, decades. So he has a master's in psychology and an MBA, right? So this guy is smart. He's smart. So when you hear him sitting here telling you that he's in fear of his life because of this hurricane crossfire shit that went on with Donald Trump and Barack Obama and these guys, I think he's lying to you. I think it's bullshit. I call bullshit because there's so much other stuff that he could have said, so many other things. Epstein files. There's so many things that he could have said that could have really made him a real hero. Instead, he chose the other road. He chose the road to run away. He chose the coward road. He chose not to say anything about it. And then ridiculed people who did. You know, this is unbelievable. And then I go into his show every now and then just to see what he's talking about. And and to see what the comments are like. I see the views are down. The views are down. And that doesn't, like he's down from, over 100,000 people watching him live to like 60,000 people watching him live, which is still huge numbers for podcasts, guys. That's huge. But people have tuned out a bit. You understand? Because people are tired of this same old stuff, man. We're tired of hearing the same old stuff and nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. Nothing got done on your watch. Nothing's getting done on Cash's watch. Nothing got done under Comey's watch, and nothing got done on the Ray's watch. It's just a shit show, man. The government is a shit show that we need to shut down. The people need to shut this down. I don't believe you, Dan. I don't believe you're in fear for your life. I don't believe that you're scared, because there's too many other way more sensitive things that you could be talking about over this crap. You understand? Way more than you could be, way more than what you're talking about right now. Okay? Let's check out a little bit more of your story here, Dan. So he was appointed deputy director to help lead day-to-day operations and bring reform to the agency. His appointment was marked by his lack of direct FBI experience and by his vocal criticism of the agency before it. Patel is facing intense scrutiny and allegations of erratic behavior, excessive drinking, and abuse of power. So I believe that, right? I believe that. I'm sure, because Dan is always, on his show, he would saying, what he would do if he was the guy, fire everybody day one. That's what you do. That's how you send the message. So I'm pretty sure Dan probably did go in there thinking he was going to change all the stuff and do stuff or whatever, maybe. But what happened is that, Dan did not change anything, right? Dan didn't change anything. It's still the same corrupt agency it was when he got there, right? They're still covering up. They're still lying and calling it in the interest of national security, which we all know is bullshit, right? They treat us like we're little kids. It's too much for us to know, right? And that's just absolutely crazy, guys. It's, we have to start pushing back a little bit more, guys. We can't keep falling for the same old guys. All right. And I guess, man, that's enough about Dan. I saw another part of the story where he said that he had planned on leaving the FBI in about 10 months, that he had already told him that it was going to be less than a year or whatever. But I don't believe that either. I believe what happened was he got in there, shit got hot. He and Pam Bundy, I don't think, ever got along. And I think things got hot when these Epstein files started coming out and all this kind of stuff. And I think they really decided that they needed Dan more on a podcast than they needed him as director, deputy of the FBI, because, or assistant director of the FBI. I think they really decided that he would serve them better in the public realm, and out here, trying to make sure that their propaganda gets pushed properly by somebody with a huge name, because the other huge names in podcasts are turning on this administration. So Dan is the last of a dying breed, and he's hanging on. He's hanging on, and I don't think that he's going to ever jump off the cliff, because, like I said, he makes a lot of money doing exactly what he's doing. So to change or go against that right now would be, career ending probably. It's detrimental. It would be detrimental to his career. And I don't have a huge following. I'm trying to build and stuff, so I can say these things. I can say the truth, and I will still say the truth. I will never sell out for money. I will never sell out for money. I will never, ever sell out for money over the truth, to lie to people, to cover up this horrible, horrible government that we have in place, guys. And the elite, the rich, Hollywood, and these people, I will never lie to cover up all of the shit that they do. And now we know what they do, but we continue to, watch their movies, go to their movies, buy their tickets, go to their concerts and all this stuff. And we know what they do. So, you know, at this point, we are willing participants, guys. You know, we are willing participants because we're learning now as we go exactly what these people are into, the kind of shit that they do, rituals and all kinds of stuff, man. Spell castings and all kinds of stuff, you know, and now we are willingly participating in this stuff, you know, so until we decide to stand up and stop, okay? So the last story for the night, guys, we're going to get into Tucker Carlson and his interview with his brother, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we come back. Families, thanks for staying with me, guys. If you're liking it so far, please hit that like, follow, subscribe button, man. This is the Ken Patterson Show, man. We appreciate all of the support. Thanks, and we'll be right back. Peace. All right, guys, we're back. And we're going to get into this Tucker Carlson bit a little bit. Here's the headline from the Gateway Pundit is where I got this from. It says, Tucker Carlson admits he'll be tormented for a long time for helping elect President Donald Trump. I want to say I'm sorry for misleading the people. And and I'm no Tucker Carlson, right? By no means. But I was with Tucker and all those guys, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, and I was right out there cheerleading along with them, pushing and pulling for Trump, trying to tell anybody that would listen to get behind Trump and telling everybody who would listen how crazy Democrats were and how crazy liberals were. And so I did my part in trying to get Trump reelected. I voted for him twice in 2020 and in 2024. I didn't vote for him in 2016. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. I just said, hey, I'm just going to flip a coin and whatever we get is what we get. Because at that time, I didn't have great confidence in Donald Trump. I thought he was just a businessman, the apprentice star, and and just really didn't think that he had any place in politics. I thought he was a, what do they call him? A pop figure. He was a cultural figure, right? So anyway, but after his first term in 2016, I thought he did a pretty good job, and I thought he definitely did a good enough job to deserve a second term. So anyway, so I went on that whole rant with these guys, Tucker and like I said, Candace Owens and all the talking heads, Dan Bongino. I was right there with them, and probably would still be there. Like if Trump had actually fulfilled his promises, if Trump was actually doing the things that he campaigned and said that he would do, right? I would probably still be right there with them, and probably and maybe not, because and you know what? I probably would be there, but this Epstein thing, and I keep saying Epstein thing because this is what turned my whole stomach. This is what turned me against them. This is what turned me against politics, period. Turned me against the FBI and the CIA and all of that shit. These people know these secrets. These people have been knowing. All of these people are blackmailed, I believe. I believe that Israel has something on all these people taking money from AIPAC. I believe Israel has something on every single one of them. And this is why we're seeing that the inaction that we're seeing when it comes to these Epstein files. So anyway, Tucker is feeling some remorse about, leading people and telling people to vote for this guy, to vote for Donald Trump. And I understand, because like I said, we pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and this guy actually has millions of followers as well. So anyway, here's the story. It says Tucker Carlson just went full Never Trump on his show, sitting down with his brother Buckley Carlson, whom Tucker named his son after, to trash President Trump and the entire MAGA movement. He didn't name his son to trash President Trump, but Tucker named his son after his brother, and then he went on his show to trash President Donald Trump and the entire MAGA movement. I just wanted to make sure you guys understood the way I read it. Okay, anyway, this comes just days after it was reported that Tucker's own son, Buckley Carlson, who the Gateway pundit proudly reported joined the Trump White House in January of 2025 as Deputy Press Secretary to Vice President J.D. Vance, who is no longer working in the administration. Sources close to the situation say that the younger Carlson's departure coincides with escalating tensions over the Trump administration's decisive action against Iran. During the interview on the Tucker Carlson show, the pair unleashed a torrent of attacks on the man they once called a hero. Now, I watched that interview in its entirety, and I can say that they talked about a whole lot of things, not Trump. They talked about a lot of things, not Trump. And yeah, they did say that they are, ashamed and sorry for voting for this person that's in the White House now, because that's not the person that they supported in the past. He's not that guy anymore. He's not the same person that they campaigned so hard for, that they fought so hard for, that they loved so much, right? They realized that he's not that guy. And nobody knows what turned Trump, right? Nobody knows, but we all have our own speculations, right? We all feel like, I feel like, and I need to quit saying we all, but I feel like Trump is compromised. I feel like Trump is blackmailed. And I feel like he's doing all of this at the behest of Netanyahu because of everything that they're holding over his head. And that's the only reason we see a person do a whole 180 like Donald Trump did, guys. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science, in my opinion, okay? Let's get into this a little bit more about what they said, Tucker said about Donald Trump. Okay, here we go. So it says the two called for the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office. This is the same Buckley Carlson who helped write Trump's speeches and defended him for years. Now he's openly calling for his removal. And here's crazy Laura Loomer on Twitter, or X, it's X. They gave her blue check mark back, I see. Or is that, yeah, I think this is on X right here. So it says, breaking, on his podcast today at Tucker Carlson and his brother Buckley Carlson at Buckley Carlson, who Tucker named his son after, called for the 25th Amendment to be used against President Trump at POTUS to remove him from office. We do have remedies for an out-of-control, megalomaniacal, destructive president. The 25th Amendment is there for a reason. This comes 2 days after it was reported that Tucker's son, Buckley, is no longer working for Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House, proving this lady is crazy, proving Tucker Carlson is trying to be vindictive over his son. Tucker Carlson is trying to hand our country over to the Democrats. This lady is certifiably, she's actually been in a mental institution, guys. She's actually admitted to cocaine usage and, actually going to a mental institution. That's Laura Loomer. And she's saying that he's been vindictive because Tucker's son is no longer working for J.D. Vance as press secretary. But listen, this stuff with Tucker didn't just start 2 days before his son was dismissed from his post at the White House. Tucker has been going in on Donald Trump since all this Iran crap started. And now the White House is actually in retaliation to Tucker by firing his son, right? They don't want a Carlson that close to the action, right? Because at the end of the day, that is Tucker Carlson's son, okay? And no matter what they might be trying to shove down his son's throat or make him say or whatever, and the thing is that he is if he's there, he's employed by them. He is an employee there. So, um, but for her to print that, Tucker now is trying to retaliate, and this is the reason that his brother and he are calling for the 25th Amendment. And I don't know that they ever said that, we need to implement the 25th Amendment. What they did say is that it is there for this kind of situation, right, where we have a president who is out of control. He's not listening to Congress. He is listening to all of his neocon friends. He's listening to all the warmonger talk out there, So, and he, none of these presidents care about what the people think. None of them have. So, they've always done this. They've always ignored the American people. When they got ready to do something, they went in and they did it. And I understand how our system works. We vote for these representatives. We send them to Washington to do our bidding, right? We send them there to do what it is as constituents want done, right? They should be serving their constituents' needs, not the needs of any foreign country or sending foreign aid to anybody. We shouldn't be doing that, period. We should not be doing that. And I think the reason that they have started this welfare shit out to everybody, and it doesn't get to everybody. Everybody doesn't get aid. Only the people that they need to perpetrate their agenda. The only people that they need to carry out all of this corruption. Those are the countries that get the funding. Ukraine, Israel, those are the countries that get the funding, right? So they were definitely retaliating against Tucker Carlson for all the things that he said since this Iran conflict kicked off, right? Tucker has been going in on them and going in on Israel really hard. So this is what we're seeing. This is why we're seeing this is why his son was fired. And I'm with Tucker, and I accept your apology, Tucker. People were out here really pushing for Donald Trump to be reelected, man, to get back in the White House, because we expected Donald Trump to really be America first. We thought he was really going to be people first. People thought that, we, as foolish as it sounds, people really thought that in 2026, we were going to get somebody who actually gave a damn about the country, somebody who actually gave a damn about the people, and who would do the will of the people, who would put the will of the people before anything else. So when he campaigned, he was saying these things. He said all of the right things. He said everything that we wanted to hear. No new wars. We're going to get out of the CDC. We're going to get out of the WHO. We're going to leave NATO. All the right things, all the things that people wanted to hear. And it was just absolutely, like I said, it was just absolutely disappointing and absolutely heartbreaking to see him now doing all the things that he's doing, right? Like, because nobody expected this guy to come in here and do a whole 180, guys. Nobody expected Donald Trump to come in here and do a whole 180, to turn his back on his base. And that's exactly what he did. And that's why his ratings are tanking. That's why this administration is tanking. You want to blame Tucker for giving the administration back, to giving power back to Democrats? No, you don't have to look far to figure out why Democrats may take power again. And it doesn't matter who's in power, guys. It doesn't matter if we have a Democrat or a Republican, man. As long as this little country over there is controlling us, this is what we're going to get. And when we get tired of this shit, maybe we'll stand up and make a change, guys. Maybe. And that's the only thing that is going to change what is going on right now, guys. We can't vote our way out of this. We've given too much up. So voting is dead, right? Like, We should all just forego the whole voting situation, guys, and then just watch what they do. And then you'll know what they've been doing all along, selecting who's president, man. We don't vote for that shit. You know, we don't vote for that. You know, there's an electoral college to, you know, circumvent popular vote and all that kind of, you know, this system is corrupt, guys. It's corrupt, and it's built for the corrupt, by the corrupt, for the corrupt. When are we going to see that, guys? When are we going to see that? And I think we are seeing it more and more. I think more and more people are seeing it. More and more people are waking up to it. We just got to wake all the way up and stand up, guys. One more thing before we get out of here, guys. I just wanted to hit this one time. I had to say something about this right here, man. Now, when I saw this shit, I said, is that Jeffrey Epstein he's laying hands on? That looks like Jeffrey Epstein laying there to me, man. And all these people laying there, and he tried to come up with all of these excuses. I was supposed to be a doctor. Because I heal people. I do make people better. I do. This mother. Look here, guys. On that note, man, I'm going to get out of here. And I appreciate everybody tuning in again, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your energy. This is the Ken Patterson Show. If you like what you saw, if you like what you heard, please tap that follow button, that subscribe button, the like button, the share button, all the buttons, man. Press those buttons. And we appreciate y'all guys, man. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody. And thank you guys. And I love you. Have a wonderful night and peace.